probably want to do is stop and hear a simple story, but that's all I got for you for about 7 minutes. And so basically what I'm talking about is in the beginning, before there ever was anything, there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. You could hear nothing, you could taste nothing, you could smell nothing, see nothing. All you had was nothing. And yet, in spite of the nothing, there was God. And he looked at this nothing, he said, I'm going to build something, I'm going to make something. And so the first thing he did was create light. And then secondly, he created waters, and he separated them from the sky. And then he realized that land would be a good idea, and so he took that land and he carved it up from underneath the waters. And he covered that land in vegetation, and trees and bushes and shrubs. And then he decided to put some vegetation in the ocean as well. And then follow that by putting other kinds of creatures and fish in the ocean, and wild animals on the land. And then he decided to put birds in the sky. And after that, he realized he needed to add stars and the moons and the heavens. So that's exactly what he did. He set the planets in just the right alignment, at just the right rotation, at just the right angle, where everything was in sync. And there were seasons, and everything was good, and there was night, and there was day. But yet something was still missing. And as he looked, he realized, I'm going to create something. I'm going to build something. And he decided he was going to create man and woman out of his own likeness. So out of his own likeness, he crafted them from the dust and breathed his breath of life into them. And so he created man, who he named Adam. And yet something was still missing. Adam needed a companion. And so he created woman for Adam, that she would complement him, and they would complement each other, and they would enjoy life together, they would have fun together. There would be happiness, because life is too fun to have alone. And so as the man and the woman looked around, everything that God had created, it was perfect, it was happy, there was no violence, there was no hate, everything was good. Everybody was content. And yet there was someone who wasn't content. There was someone who looked on this and said, I don't like this. I don't like that there's happiness and joy. Instead, I'd love to have, he was God's adversary. And this adversary wanted to put the screws to God any chance he could. And the funny thing about it was, he had actually been one of God's creation. And yet he hated God because he did not want to be underneath God. He did not want to have to follow God. And so as he was looking at this, he realized, what's my angle? How do I get to it? And he realized and figured out what it was. Because of all the trees, all the things that God had given the man and woman, he said, you know what? Don't eat of this. Don't trust me. You don't want to know. Because if you eat this fruit, you will know things you don't want to know. You will see things you don't want to see. You will understand things you don't want to understand. You will experience death. And death is the last thing that you want. Because I did not intend for you to die. I intend for you to live. And he says, but that's going to require you to trust me. And that's exactly what the man and the woman did. They trusted me. And yet, the adversary realized, this is my shot. And so he disguised himself as a serpent, and he went in and he snuck up on the woman and the man, and he said, hey, I've noticed you've eaten of every tree except for this one. What gives? Why aren't you eating of this one? And the man and the woman looked at him and said, well, God told us that if we ate of this tree, if we ate it, that we would see things we didn't want to see. We would know things we didn't want to know. We would experience things we didn't want to experience. And so that's why we have it. He said, well, why are you listening to him? They said, well, we trust him. He made us in his image. He loves us. He created all this for us. We trust him. He said, you shouldn't trust him. He doesn't care about you. In fact, he's just trying to lord over you. How do you know? In fact, if you eat of that, you know what you're going to know? You're going to know things that he doesn't want you to know. You're going to see things he doesn't want you to see. And he doesn't like that, because that means you're going to know things that he does, and you're going to be just as powerful as he. And so he's just doing this to manipulate you. He's just doing this to keep you under his thumb. And so as he began to talk, the woman and the man began to doubt, and they began to wonder, does God really love us? Does he really care? And so finally, before they knew it, the fruit looked good and they ate it. And suddenly, the minute they did, everything was different. There was suddenly a cold breeze in the air that they had never felt before. Suddenly the animals who were so friendly with them, they were around every day, wanted nothing to do with them. They ran and they hid. And then on top of that, as soon as they looked at each other, they instantly realized that something was wrong, and they shrieked, because for the first time they realized that they were naked. And they didn't know why they shrieked. It was like some kind of innocence was gone. Something was lacking that was there before. And so they ran and hid in the bushes and covered themselves so they wouldn't be seen. And at that same time, God was walking through his creation because he loved to spend time with the woman and the man. He enjoyed that relationship. But he knew something was wrong, and he found him, and he walked up to him and he said, hey, what's the deal? Why are you hiding? And why are you running? Well, I said, did you eat of the tree? Did you not listen to what I told you to do? Did you not trust me? He said, yeah. He said, why didn't you trust me? I said, well, because there was this serpent, and he told us, you were just trying to manipulate us. You were just trying to exert your power over us. And the more he talked, the more we listened, and we just began to distrust you. And so we just did it. And God instantly knew who that serpent was. Instantly knew that, yeah, it's a serpent, but I know who you really are. And he grabbed that serpent, and he walked the man and woman to the edge of the garden. And he took that serpent, and he goes, I know you hate me. I know you can't stand me. But you know what? There's going to come a time when you and me are going to have to deal with each other. And you might take a den out of me, but I'm going to end you. This is going to be over. But until that time, I'm going to throw you out. And he cast that serpent out, and he looked at the man and the woman, and he says, listen, I love you. I care about you. But because you didn't trust me, because you didn't believe me, you're going to now have to enter that world I told you about. And now you're going to have to work, you're going to have to sweat to get things. And though in the previous times you've been able to talk with each other and everything has been great, now you're going to fight, you're going to bicker. And he looked at the man and he said, you're going to think she's trying to undermine you, that she's trying to disrespect you, so you're going to fight her. And he looked at the woman and he said, you're going to think he's trying to overlord over you. You're going to think he's doing a power play. And so you're going to fight him, it's going to be bickering, it's going to be bad. And just as your relationship is severed, so our relationship is severed. But it's not going to stay that way. Because there's going to come a time when I'm going to come and I'm going to build that relationship back. I'm going to restore things to the way that they used to be. But it's not going to be now, it's going to be in the future. And I'm going to tell you about it later, but you're going to have to wait. And so with that, he walked them out, and before they left, he realized, those leaves that you covered, those aren't going to cut it. I love you too much to send you out like that. And so he took some animals right in front of them, and he killed them. And they had never seen death before, and they freaked out. And so as they looked at these animals, he took them and he made them into clothes, and he covered them. He says, these will keep you warm. I love you, and I'm not going to quit pursuing you. I'm going to come after you. But it's going to be a little bit longer. And so with that, the man and the woman walked into the world that they didn't know existed. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask them. If you want to, I have some questions for you if you care. But that's it. And so, yeah.